read the Magic Tree book. Merlin Mission 3. Summer of the Sea Serpent. Yesterday I can't read all of the stories, so today I will gonna read. Started at chapter 9, The Sword of Light, and the end of reading at chapter 11. Okay, now are you ready for this one book with a lot of stories? And now here we go. And first you can read the Magic Tree Merlin Missions. Summer of the Sea Serpent 3. Now let's start reading at chapter 9, The Sword of Light, and the end of reading at chapter 11. Okay, now let's start reading chapter 9, The Sword of Light. Annie pointed to the sword handle. Jack nodded, but he was running out of the air. He was ran back up for a surface. Annie followed him. Their hands bubbled above the water, and they gasped. "Did you see it?" cried Annie. "The handle of the sword?" "Yes, the blade made up to burn on the sand," said Jack. "We have to pull at it," said Annie, "and we have to hurry." "Right," said Jack. He and Annie took a giant gallops of air. Then they all swam back down at the bottom of the cove. Then Jack got to the sword first. He grabbed the handle and pulled. The sword didn't budge, and pulled again. The sword didn't move. Annie grabbed the one side of the handle. Then she and Jack pulled together. Jack felt a sword move a tiny bit. His lungs felt like when they are about to burst. And gripping his side of the handle with both hands, Jack pulled out his knife. Suddenly, the flashing blade slipped out of the sand. Jack and Annie carried the sword up the water as they fast could. The birds was going to the air, clinging to the searchlight, gasping for air. "We got it!" Jack called to Kathleen and Teddy. The sea circle ran down, splashing bark joyfully. "Brr, brr! Lead us to the rocks," said Annie shouted, and Jack and Annie each held out the sword's handle down, the handle down one hand with a peddling their free hands, and dragged the sword after the seals. Oh, they find the sword, a very big knife, and I think they're doing their missions with this big sword and fighting with this big snake. It might be a very nice adventure. Now they need to meet this very big snake. As they swam, the fog began to lift, and the sky turned from gray to blue. By the time they reached the rocky island, and light from down at the late afternoon was sun again glinting over the strange green shoreline. "Hold the sword while I get out," Jack shouted to Annie, and Jack climbed onto a rocky island. He took the sword from Annie and carefully pulled it up to the rocks and let it into its side. And Jack pulled to a water nearby, and they all silent and stared and wondered at the sword. "Wow!" brave Annie. Jack nodded. The mighty sword reflected the burning light of the setting sun. Its blade glowing as if two were on fire. "Now, what do we do?" Jack said. "We have to get out of the sword to Merlin fast," said Annie. "The sun about to go down." "Right," said Jack. "Before nightfall." "Right." And suddenly, Teddy and Kathleen barked a warning. Jack and Annie looked up. The water began to ripple. The ripple started at the edge of the cove and through the canter. The waves cashed against of the snow rocky island, sending up the great showers of the spray. "What's going on?" said Jack. Maybe a bad storm is coming, said Annie. Brr, brr! Kathleen and Teddy tried to haul themselves into the rock, but the waves pushed them away. We've got to help them, said Annie. She and Jack tried to help seals out of the water, and the hands slipped over to a silk seal and skin. The nearby dropped into the water themselves. The waves keep rolling and splashing. Brr, brr! The two seals were keep away from the rocky island. Look, cried Danny. The land is moving. Jack looked at a strange shoreline swirling to a cove. It was moving. He shipped from side to side and steering forward. A great rolling noise and rocket to a cove. Monsters have heard the noise above the surface underwater. The green holes is not hills at all. They're holes of a giant sea serpent's body. Oh, I think this snake is coming out now. Oh no. Chapter 10, The Ancient Question. Ah! Screamed Jack and Annie. The giant sea serpent arched into a long neck into the sky. Its scaly green skin glistened into the late sunlight. Staring Jack and Annie, his eyes burned like a bright yellow lamps. And Jack and Annie were frozen to terror. The monster opened its mouth. Inside were arrows of flecks of a purple full tongue. Then the serpent made a terrible hissing sound. Jack and Annie hunted together up the rock. Frantic seabirds came from far away. Teddy! Yelled Jack. Kathleen! Their magic can't help us now, cried Annie. They're stuck in their seal. Before she could finish, the sea serpent's deep voice blew to the cove. Who are you and why are you so scared? The sword of light. Jack was too stern to answer, but Annie shouted back at the monster. We're Jack and Annie. We're on a mission over the Merlin. The serpent hissed angry. The purple tongue flickered through the crust of the body around the rocky island. Then the monster arched his neck and allowed to his huge head. Again, the ancient voice ballooned through the cove. To be worthy of the sword land of the sword, you mustn't answer the question of the sword. What is the question? Shouted Annie. Hissed the serpent. It turned away to circle the rocks again. Soon its scaly green body was coiled twice around the little rocky island. It was going to crush us. Jack died with a hurl. Maybe there was going to strange enough to strip the monster before the splash them. Pick it up the sword, he thought Jack. Together they all Annie would lift with the motley sword, and they all gripped the handle and pointed to the gleaming blade of the sea serpent. Don't come any closer, Jack yelled. The serpent came closer. His eyes flashed. Its forked tongue dilted out, and it was open its mouth wide. Wait, stop, Annie shouted to the sea serpent. Give us a chance. Ask us a question. The serpent closed its mouth. Then it arched to its neck and huge lid darted into the right down of the front of Jack and Annie. In the low, deep voice it said, what is the purpose of the sword? That is the unanswered question. Oh, there is some angry ancient snake here. Oh no, they need to run away. I think they need to make sure the snake dies. So they have the knife, of course. Okay, the purpose of the sword. Just a minute, shouted Annie. She turned it to Jack. What's the purpose of the sword? Said Jack. The purpose of the sword? She asked. To defeat your enemies, Jack said, and Annie shook her head. That doesn't sound right. To force them to give up, Jack said. To slay them? No, I'm sure they're not right, said Annie. The serpent hissed dead impatiently. Then what? Said Annie. I don't know, said Annie, but maybe this was not going to be fighting at all. Look at it! Jack stirred and gleaming sword. The silver blade glowed against the red sunset sky. Staring at the whirlness of the sword, Jack felt clamor. A strange sense of the joy relief came over him. Answer the question, the serpent glowed. And Jack's mind became clear. I think I've got it, he said. Remember a line of the Merlin's rhyme? Answer question with love, not fear. Yes, said Annie, that's it. It's not about the fighting, it's about the being afraid. Answer the question, the serpent bloomed. And Jack looked at the serpent's face as it stared deep into the yellow's eyes. He no longer felt any fear. It was about the serpent who seemed afraid now. The sword shouldn't be used to harm anything, Jack shouted. That's right, said Annie. It could be used for a good only. And the serpent stopped saying. It flicked its tongue. The sword would make a people afraid, said Jack. It shouldn't help take away their fear. I'm not afraid. They'll stop fighting. The serpent was very still. The purpose start not fighting, Jack shouted. The purpose of the sword is peace. Now chapter 11. Sword and rhyme. Oh, I think Jack and Annie have been at this rescue of the Merlin missionary, and they have gone to. They have helped the serpent, and the serpent is very, very big, but even bigger than Jack and Annie. So I imagine they can't fight with this big giant serpent. But it's not. They can fight with them with their rhymes. I'm glad they have the nicer rhymes. And now I'm reading this Magic Tree of Merlin Mission 3 Summer of the Sea Serpent story. And today, at today's night, I will read all of the stories later, okay? Now, thank you for coming to my YouTube, and please thumbs up my YouTube. And bye-bye, everybody, and have a nice day. Bye-bye and bye-bye. Say bye-bye to this book, too. So, that means tomorrow we'll be reading new stories. You'll be very excited. Bye-bye.